So I put this demo together to show how the database, world builder, and the system cartographer all work together to build an open world environment that allows the player to move from place to place relatively seamlessly. So as the player approaches the boundary of a zone, the next zone data is loaded preemptively prior to that zone switching. You can see this by the loading indicator up in the corner. Here you can see where two zones aren't stitched perfectly together in the terrain, but when the player crosses them, you'll see that the system transfers the player from one zone to the other. It's almost a seamless transition, but there is quite a bit of stuff going on in the background. So here's an example of the same process that we just saw. But on the left-hand screen, we can see an overhead view where the blue arrow is pointing the direction the player is going. And the square represents the zone that we've got currently loaded. And as the player moves towards a zone boundary, you'll see the system preemptively load the connecting zone. And as the player crosses that boundary, you'll see that the entire environment is shifted to compensate for the new zone having been loaded, and the previous zone is moved to the outside of that connecting block. And then as the player moves further away from that boundary, the previous zone is dismissed and just the single zone is loaded. In order for this to work, the game engine has to understand the geography of the landscape. And I used a mapping system very similar to what a person would use to navigate around, that allows the game engine to know what the connecting zones are, where they're at, how far away they are. And this allows the engine to know when to load the next zone and what zone that is and that zone's position in the overall world. To do this, I created a custom tool that I call World Builder. So in our demonstration, we have 4 zones: northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. And this is a real-time compilation of those 4 zones. And the zones are defined by marking out areas of towns or regions, the zone space, which server is responsible for that particular area. World Builder then takes all that information and creates a dedicated chunk of data for the specific zone. And all the information for that zone is compressed into this single chunk of data. And as the player moves throughout the zone, the system cartographer continuously references the chunk to determine what zone the player is in, what town the player is in, are there any special effects relative to being into that town, or any other items that may be layered into that stack of data. When the player starts up their game, the system would go and see if there were any data updates. This is where it would download the individual chunks of data for system cartographer, or the system that controls the layout and the cartography of the world. And as you can see here, it takes quite a while to download just those 4 zones. The end result is the player can move across this game world almost seamlessly, or with minimal loading times. I think I still will use a loading screen because there are other things that will have to be loaded at the time the player is moving into the new zone, other databases that'll have to be updated, but I think all in all, the process of moving from zone to zone in my game engine right now is relatively acceptable. One of the other things I wanted to test while putting this test build together was to see how the NPCs and the artificial intelligence systems would work. And I was able to get a couple of patrols in here, and they are doing what they're supposed to do by wandering the area aimlessly. However, they are supposed to interact with the player, and that's not happening. That's something I'm going to have to fix. It's likely an easy fix. It works in the editor, but does not work in the actual build. One of the other things I worked on in the last couple of months was the skybox. I did not like the fact that the sky and the sun did not give off much of a realistic appearance. So I've redone the entire shader for the skybox, and now the sun interacts with the clouds and stars come out at night, and there's a sunset and a sunrise, which can be seen in some of the previous photos that I've done. But I think you'll find that this is quite a bit of an improvement over the last one. So this is just kind of an update to where things are at in the game engine, and kind of give you an idea of the state of things at the moment. You know, it's stuff's getting done, it's slow, I am at the mercy of my real life schedule, but progress is being made, and I am pushing forward. It is my goal to make some more playable demos that I can put up on the webpage and let people enjoy and get feedback from. I do enjoy hearing from people and getting feedback on what they see and what they think. It's quite inspirational at times to hear that people are enjoying what they're seeing. I do have a couple of smaller game projects that I am working on, as you might have guessed from this demonstration. And I'm hoping to get one or two more smaller projects put together that I can use to refine my game engine toolbox. But I have continued to work on my larger projects, and hope to start showing some demonstrations of those. Feel free to post questions or comments. I do read through them, and I find them interesting. And I thank you for your time.